We're finishing up section 1.3 here with a quick lesson on weighted averages. The definition here says weighted averages are the sum of weighted values divided by the sum of the weights. That sounds a little interesting, maybe a little confusing, but really this is just average in disguise. Right? Hopefully you recall what average is. Like if I wanted the average of 2, 7, and 8, I would just add those up, 2 plus 7 plus 8, and I would divide by the number of values. There's 3 of those, right? Weighted average, though, just assigns extra values to each number. Like this number line shows, I don't just have 1 2 here, I have 2 2s. And I don't just have 1 7, there's 3 7s. Okay, so we have to take that into account, but it is just average from there. This definition shows how we can follow a procedure, just a little equation every single time to solve for weighted averages. So the first thing I like to look for is the total number of weights that are given in a problem. I think it's the easiest thing to do. So that would be adding the dots up here. So 2 plus 3 plus 1, there's 6 weights in this example. So that means I'm gonna end up dividing by 6 in my average here, right? The next thing we need is that sum of weighted values. And we can find that by taking each number that has a weight and just multiplying it by the number of weights. So we have 2 2s. So that means I'm gonna end up doing 2 times 2. And I have 3 7s, which means I'm gonna do 7 times 3. And I have 1 8, which means I'm gonna do 8 times 1. And really what I've shown you here are the individual components of the calculation we're gonna do. So we have that sum of weighted values is gonna come from this multiplication. And then our sum of weights was that 6, adding up our dots here on this number line. So here's what our final calculation is now going to look like. It's going to be the sum of those weighted values, so that's the 2 times 2 plus the 7 times 3 plus the 8 times 1. So it's the sum of all that divided by the sum of weights, which hopefully you notice is just the sum of the numbers in the parentheses, 2 plus 3 plus 1 divided by 6. So we're going to do that multiplication up top. 2 times 2 is 4, 7 times 3 is 21, 8 times 1 is 8. Then we're adding those values together. 4 plus 21 is 5, it's 25, plus 8 is 33. And then we are dividing by 6. In this case, we would get, I think that is 5.5. So that's definitely a very unique thing there. So let's do another practice example of that and make sure we have it down here. So -2 has a weight of 3, 4 has a weight of 2, 5 has a weight of 1. We're going to find our weighted average from these values by, again, just doing the calculation I showed you in our last example. But we can get straight to that calculation part now that we know the individual components. So taking each value and multiplying it by its weight. So -2 has a weight of 3, so I'm doing -2 times 3. And I need the sum of all those values times their weight. So plus 4 times its weight of 2 plus 5 times its weight of 1. And remember, we're dividing this by the total number of weights. In this case, we're getting 6 again. 3 plus 2 plus 1. Again, that's adding the numbers here in parentheses. And end up dividing by 6. And I'm multiplying up top. -2 times 3 is -6, plus 4 times 2, which is +8, plus 5 times 1, which is 5, all being divided by 6. I'm adding all those up in the numerator. -6 plus 8 is 2, plus 5 is 7. We get 7 over 6. Right? You can leave it as a fraction, we can write it as a round decimal, just make sure that we're following directions for any given problems. Weighted average can get a little tricky when we have fractions for weights. So I'm going to give you a few examples here to make sure that you're comfortable with that. So here we have 10 with a weight of 3/4, 24 with a weight of 1/4. Again, I've already given you a procedure of how to do this. We're just going to follow that, right? So 10 times its weight, 3/4, plus 24 times its weight of 1/4 over the total number of weights. And it is absolutely fine for us to just write down the addition here. Remember, it's adding the weights together. 3/4 plus 1/4. Let's talk about that there on the bottom really quick. 3/4 plus 1/4. When we add fractions together, we add the numerators up. We keep the denominator the same. 4 over 4 is just 1. And hopefully you guys know that when we divide any number by 1, it just equals itself. So what's essentially going to happen here, and what will happen with all of your weighted average fraction questions here in the state of Florida, is that those denominators must have a sum of 1. Which means in these fraction examples, we're really only calculating the numerator up there. The 10 times 3/4 plus 24 times 1/4. All right, so let's continue that up here again, knowing that I'm gonna have a 1 on the bottom. To do 10 times 3/4 in your calculator, you just do 10 times 3, then divide that by 4. Simple as that. So 10 times 3 is 30, 30 divided by 4 would give us 7.5 up there. Same thing here, 24 times 1 divided by 4, which is 6. And we add those together, 7.5 plus 6 gives me 13.5. Again, anything divided by 1 is equal to itself. So our weighted average in this example is 13.5. All right, here's an opportunity for you to test your skills out now. Let's see if you can pause the video and find the weighted average in this example. Hopefully you've caught on to our process here for solving for weighted average. We're taking that value, multiplying it by its weight, and we're adding all of those up. So 35 times 2/5. And we're dividing by the total number of weights, which remember is always going to be the sum of the numbers here in our parentheses, the sum of our weights. So we have 3/5 plus 2/5. Remember, when we have fractions for our weights, we're always going to get a denominator of 1 here. 3/5 plus 2/5 is 5/5. 5 divided by 5 gives us 1. So we know we're going to be over 1 here. We have 15 times 3 divided by 5. 15 times 3 is 45. 45 divided by 5 give us a value of 9 there. Plus 35 times 2 divided by 5. 35 times 2 is 70. 70 divided by 5 is 14. 9 plus 14 is 23. And any number divided by 1 is equal to itself. So we get a weighted average here of 23. And guys, that is it for lesson 1.3 on distance formula, the midpoint formula, and weighted average. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.